Kia ora, hello, g'day. I'm Philip Duncan from Weather Watch TV on YouTube with your Australia-only 7-day forecast and 7-day rainfall outlook. Let's kick off though with the Thursday satellite and lightning map showing a lot of energy out here in the Tasman Sea. Severe thunderstorms tracking past Lord Howe Island, been clobbered by some of those downpours this morning, and now very windy weather is about to move across the Tasman Sea as this low just off the coast of Sydney deepens and becomes windier and a bit stormier, but at the same time starts to move away. So that rain that's been falling in Sydney this morning, some heavy falls, moving up the coastline, but at the same time being dragged back out to sea. So the wet weather will start to clear away from New South Wales as we go through your Thursday. There are isolated thunderstorms around other parts of Western Australia, mainly around the border of the Northern Territory and South Australia, and a few offshore thunderstorms in the Midwest. On the air pressure map, the main feature is this big high that is moving in. It is not the low that is now moving away from us. This high covers basically the same size as Australia and is dredging up the southerly flow into Queensland and the Northern Territory, which is why temperatures are going to be down tonight in many places, even some frosty conditions around as the winds die out thanks to that big high. Still obviously windy on the Tasman Sea side of things and around Bass Strait, Tasmania, but lighter winds for Western Australia. So let's have a look at the wind map as we go into the later part of this afternoon. It's Lord Howe Island's turn to get the next burst of windy nor'westers. They might be damaging. The centre of the low very nearby and stretched out. That makes it a little bit tricky sometimes to forecast. But you can see behind the centre of the low, that big strong southerly that pushes all the way back to the coastline. So windy weather carries on across Thursday PM, but it is all moving slowly off towards New Zealand. And so by Friday, it's gone. It's out of here, over towards the New Zealand area. And back over Australia, high pressure comes in over the Great Australian Bight in South Australia. That will keep winds lighter. I've had quite a few people ask me about the AFL finals. I'm not a very sporty guy, and I don't usually like covering sports events because there's so many of them. But I had quite a few people ask about this. So not much going on in Brisbane. Light winds, the pale blue right at the bottom of the scale, 0.2 millimetres. So it's not going to be a very wet day. Most of the wet weather is still around the west coast of Tasmania, some coastal parts of Victoria, and up here in the northwest, parts of the top end and the Kimberley are still seeing thunderstorms and maybe some other heavy downpours. But because there's high pressure all around, that area up there is going to fall apart, and that's what happens on Saturday. Basically, a couple of remaining showers, otherwise drying out. High pressure moves out of South Australia and into New South Wales and the ACT, pushing away all of that wind, and there may be a couple of lingering showers, but it's really looking mostly dry. Because the high is moving through New South Wales, northwards, you're into more of a squash zone. So the easterly winds develop due to low pressure right up here going into the tropics. So an easterly flow across the Northern Territory and Queensland, turning around as a nor'wester though, for Western Australia ahead of the next big front. This big storm off to the southwest is going to track along south of Australia as we go into the weekend and into next week. So let's go into that now. Sunday afternoon, here comes the next burst of severe weather risks for the southwest of Western Australia. Thunderstorm risk really wherever you see blue, there is the chance of a downpour or a thunderstorm, but most of the energy is where the polar line is. It's only just coming in to the southwest. Despite this storm being nearby, the storm is not coming closer to Australia, so therefore the severe weather and the cold weather runs parallel basically to the coastline over the days ahead. And ahead of that, windy weather coming through Western Australia and northwesterlies build up in South Australia, Victoria and Tasmania, especially around Tasmania, Kangaroo Island, those sorts of areas. But like I say, light winds around New South Wales. So the windy weather is seen here on the wind gust map. For Sunday 2 p.m. Western time, Perth to Augusta, around to Albany, main risk of those damaging wind gusts that can break branches, cause power outages, that sort of thing. And you've also got the thunderstorms and the colder airflow coming in there. Ahead of it, further inland around Norseman and Kalgoorlie, you've got strong gusts getting up to 60, 70 kilometres an hour. That is just getting into that problematic zone. Hopefully it's not going to cause too many issues. By Monday, most of that windy weather is south of Australia now. still brushing the south of Western Australia, so Albany to Esperance, most exposed, could be still some squally showers coming through there. But because this is moving sideways, it starts to move into the coastal parts of South Australia. Kangaroo Island, Adelaide, those areas, Port Lincoln, getting caught up in those showers. But then as you move further into Victoria, pretty dry with those northwesterlies. Showers will arrive later from the west, and rain or showers for the west and northwest of Tasmania. Basically everywhere else is dry or mainly dry, apart from a couple of showers moving further into Queensland up in the north there, and they linger into Tuesday as well. But not much to talk about for Queensland, the Northern Territory or Western Australia by Tuesday of next week. High pressure moving on through, and ahead of that you've got the cold front which is running along, so that will bring in a temperature drop for Tasmania. Your turn to get the polar airflow. It kind of drops down a wee bit further southwards on Tuesday. Rain on the west coast with heavy falls, thunderstorms, hail showers, and maybe even a light bit of snow at the highest elevations. Hobart right on the edge of that colder change. And windy weather also from a westerly point of view, whether it's a westerly, a southwesterly or a northwesterly. Those westerly quarter winds blow through Victoria, the ACT and into New South Wales, but it's more of a northerly up here around Queensland. So that windy weather comes through Tuesday afternoon, we think at this stage, for the Bass Strait area and for Tasmania, and also some coastal parts of the southeast of South Australia, coastal parts of Victoria. Also northwards, going up into the New South Wales area. As those winds come over the Great Dividing Range, some gusts could go over 100 kilometres an hour, but once you get closer to the coastline, shouldn't be quite so bad. So Wednesday's setup, big picture view of it all. Stormy to the south of Australia, the polar air coming right up to Albany again and just brushing southern parts of Tasmania. Northwards of that, a little bit windy, but high pressure is still around, linking up from the Indian Ocean to the Tasman Sea. So there's not a lot of energy going on in the southern parts of Australia, except for maybe a couple of heavy showers for New South Wales around the ranges. You might get a thunderstorm, but it's fairly isolated there on Wednesday for you. And as we go to Thursday, there's a fair bit of low pressure developing around the Northern Territory, the Kimberley and the far north of Queensland. The red line, the tropical boundary, drifting further down with the hot, humid airflows. The polar airflow is still flirting with the south to southeast. So Tasmania is still in winter weather conditions for you on Thursday. Strong winds, heavy west coast rain, possibly still a couple of snow flurries higher up, and some hail showers around. And that may also, those hail showers, or at least sort of what I call wintry squally showers, may also brush some parts here. Otherwise, really very little to talk about on Thursday of next week, although a bit of a squeeze here with the winds. The Midwest might be seeing some windy easterlies. Let's have a look at the 7-day rainfall. So we've obviously got the rain that's falling at the moment around Sydney and just northwards. Let's animate the next 7 days, and you see showers moving through, but really it's what happens on Sunday as the cold front arrives over in Western Australia. That is the next surge of weather. It's not necessarily producing huge amounts of rain though. As you can see with the colour shading, it's down around the showery kind of setup. Some areas might have lots of showers coming in, and so it piles up in the southwest of Western Australia, but really the west coast of Tasmania, 80 to maybe 100 millimetres expected there. Very little rainfall in most other places, just a couple of tropical showers coming in around the Cairns area northwards. The place of the day, Dalby, Queensland, and to be honest with you, the only reason I chose Dalby is because of Ducklo, which is an even smaller, very small place nearby. Thank you to the viewer on YouTube who mentioned Ducklo the other day. Watch out for low-flying ducks, I hear. So here is the town of Dalby, excuse me. So Dalby is 13,000 people, 344 metres above sea level. Temperatures are looking kind of Jekyll and Hyde at the moment. Cold night tonight with the 4 degrees, but overnight lows going up to 14 over the next 7 days, and your daytime maximums anywhere from 19 up to 30, so that's quite a variety, and it looks dry. If there's any wet weather, it doesn't look like it's going to linger for very long. And that is all from me. Thanks for joining me again this week. I'll see you again tomorrow, Friday, with our next Australia Only update.